Morbid Reality is a subreddit that shows some of the most morbid and darkest parts of life. As you probably remember, back in February last year, a military coup took place in Myanmar, a country in Southeast Asia. The Burmese military took the nation's leader into custody and turned the republic into an authoritarian regime. As of March 2022, 1,719 civilians have been killed, including children. This is Kiel Sin, a 20-year-old taekwondo instructor. She's photographed on March 3, 2021 as a protest in Mandalay, wearing a t-shirt saying, "Everything will be okay." Not long after the picture was taken, she was shot and killed. Prior to her death, she had made a Facebook post stating her blood type in case she was injured, and her wish for her organs to be donated should she die during the protest. Her funeral was attended by thousands of protesters, and this photo of her remains one of the most iconic pictures of the Myanmar coup. This is Tina Tintor, a 23-year-old woman living in Nevada with her 3-year-old dog Max, a golden retriever. She was studying to become a computer programmer. In the early morning hours of November 2nd, 2021, the worst would occur.
Former Las Vegas Raiders receiver Henry Ruggs III did not appear in court for an arraignment Wednesday to be formally charged after a fiery crash in Las Vegas in the early hours of November 2nd claimed the life of 23-year-old Tina Tintor.
The family's torn apart, as anybody would be. This was a terrible, terrible collision. So they're mourning their loss, they're grieving, they're mad. They have all of the emotions you would think a family would have. His blood alcohol level came back at 0.16. That's twice the legal limit.
Prosecutors say Ruggs was speeding at 156 miles per hour in the early hours of November 2nd when his Corvette slammed into the back end of a Toyota RAV4 driven by Tintor. The RAV4 burst into flames and Tintor and her dog were trapped inside.
It was later learned that Tina had survived the crash, but burned to death after the vehicle was engulfed in flames. After the fire was put out, firefighters discovered a second body. It was her dog, Max. Seeing as Tina was of Serbian descent, the Serbian community of Nevada paid their respects to her. The Tintor family lawyer was interviewed, and this is what he had to say.
Life is about choices. Mr. Ruggs made a choice. And the difficulty I have is there's so many alternatives. There's ride sharing, there's a designated driver, there's a taxi, there's so many alternatives. But Mr. Ruggs made a choice.
Reddit user Hadiboo posted this picture, saying it was a message given to the patient by his son. Sadly, apparently, the dad died as soon as his son left. According to OP, he was 88 years old, and it's believed that he went into septic shock. Here we have a Twitter post from the Prince William County PD in Virginia. It's dated February 26, 2016. Welcome Officer Stephen Kendall and Ashley Gwindon, who were sworn in today and begin their shifts this weekend. Be safe. The next evening, on February 27th, these tweets were posted. Domestic-related shooting in Lake Ridge. A subject is in custody. Officers were injured at the scene. More info when available. Update, 8:35 p.m. 3 Prince William officers have been shot and are being treated for their injuries. Their conditions are unknown at this time. Ashley Gwindon has died as a result of her injuries. We ask for thoughts and prayers. So as you heard, Ashley was shot and killed during her first shift as a police officer. The suspect who killed her and wounded 2 others, Ronald Hamilton, was sentenced to 7 life sentences. He had also killed his wife Crystal prior to the officers showing up. To make things worse for Ashley's family, it was learned that her father had killed himself in 2004 after fighting in the Iraq War. She was inspired to become a police officer because of him, as he couldn't apply because of the injuries he sustained in Iraq. I can't imagine how her mother must feel. This is 59-year-old Camille Martlin and her son Max, 22. They were described as being very close, as Max was her only son. On October 24, 2021, they went out to collect pumpkins for Halloween. While driving home, they were caught in a windstorm that blew a tree over and crushed them both to death. This is the aftermath of the tragedy. Here is a UPS delivery man in New York City just doing his job on one of the darkest days in history. This is Jean-Pierre Sibomana. He is a survivor of the Rwandan genocide. His entire family was killed and he lost his leg in 1994 when he was only 13. He also lived in an abandoned house by himself for 4 years. He still resides in Rwanda and is a disability rights activist in the country. Dogs are considered to be man's best friend. So how would you feel if something terrible happened to your dog? Something so terrible, it would result in their death. Anyone with a heart would be absolutely devastated at the thought of losing their best friend. And one picture shows the grief and heartbreak of such an occurrence more than any other. On January 31st, 2015, a fire broke out on the second floor of a house in Reading, Pennsylvania. It led to the deaths of 5 dogs and 11 people losing their houses. One of the dogs killed was a pit bull named Gemini, who was aged 2. Her owner, Shamal English, broke down in the street and cradled his beloved pet. That was when this picture was taken. The grief and anguish can be seen on his face. This is a screenshot from an Instagram livestream that went horribly wrong. On March 25th, 2022, 12-year-old Paris Harvey was streaming on Instagram Live with her 14-year-old cousin Kuaran in the early hours of that day. I imagine to try to look cool, she decided to play around with a gun. At first she's just waving the gun around. I assume, as I said, she's trying to look cool. Then, while the gun is facing the head of her cousin, Paris pulls the trigger and shoots Kuaran in the head. He falls to the ground instantly. Paris then collapses in shock and then shoots herself. This picture was taken right before Paris pulled the trigger. The video of the incident can be found online, but please be warned, it is really shocking and awful. Police responded to the couple station loft apartments at South 10th and Spruce Streets in St. Louis, Missouri, shortly after 2 a.m. Both of the children were sadly pronounced dead at the scene. Some people claim that it was a murder-suicide, but the children's family members quickly shut that theory down. They are adamant that this was just a freak accident. Let me know what you all think. This picture speaks for itself, really. This was the exact moment that a car plowed into cyclists participating in a bike race close to the US-Mexico border on June 1st, 2008. The driver had been driving home after a night of drinking and fell asleep behind the wheel. 1 person was killed and 10 others were severely injured. What do you think this is? Out of context, most people would be unsure of what exactly is being shown, but with context, it puts things into a whole different perspective. This is an image of the dog tags of every known American soldier who lost their life in the Vietnam War. Hey everyone, Sean here. Hope you enjoyed this very different video. Please let me know if you want to see more of these types of videos from the MorbidReality subreddit. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel, and share the videos with your friends and family. By doing this, you're helping to support me and this channel. Thank you all for your continued support, and I'll see you in the next one.